Hello friends, do you know why some countries get really strong and powerful while others lose their strength? Ray Dalio, a successful investor, has spent several years looking at how countries rise and fall. He found patterns that decide what happens to nations and their economies. These patterns have happened over and over in history and help us understand why things turn out the way they do. In this video, we'll explain Dalio's ideas in simple terms, so you can see how these changes affect the world now and in the future. Stay with us. This could change the way you think about the world and help you make smarter choices. Understanding the cycle of global power shifts. The rise and fall of nations happen in cycles. No country stays on top forever, and each cycle follows a pattern. The dominance of any country is shaped by several key factors such as economic growth and debt, countries' internal problems, and external competition. Let's understand them step by step. Number 1. Economic growth and debt. Countries rise to global power by being productive, building strong economies, and managing their money well. But over time, if a country takes on too much debt and starts spending more than it earns, it starts getting weak. This is one of the main reasons why nations lose their power. Debt crises often cause a shift in the world order. The U.S. became the world's top economy because of strong industry and innovation. But now, with rising debt and overspending, its financial strength is weakening, just like how the British Empire declined after borrowing too much for wars. Number 2. Internal problems. Nations that experience a lot of internal conflict, whether it's political fighting or economic problems, start to lose their strength. Internal issues make it harder for a country to focus on growing its influence globally. For example, the Roman Empire became rich and powerful, but as leaders fought with each other and people became unhappy, so it started falling apart from the inside. The same thing happened to the Soviet Union before it collapsed in 1991. Number 3. External competition. As a rising power challenges the top nation, it creates competition. This could happen through trade, military strength, or even cultural influence. Eventually, this competition can lead to war. A new power slowly replaces the old one, as the old nation fights to hold on to its position. In the 1900s, Britain was the world's leading power, but the US and Germany grew stronger. After 2 world wars and financial struggles, Britain lost its top position, and the US took over as the global leader. Now China is challenging the US in trade and technology, which could shift global power again. This cycle keeps repeating throughout history. A real-world example: the rise of China and the decline of the US. Dalio's analysis of global power shifts can be seen in today's world. One of the most obvious examples is the rise of China and the relative decline of the United States. China's economic growth. Over the last few decades, China has transformed from a poor nation to the world's second-largest economy. This growth has come from building factories, investing in technology, and focusing on global trade. China's rise follows Dalio's principles. It focused on economic growth, saved money, and invested in innovation. It's a country that has worked hard to become a global power. The U.S. and debt. On the other hand, the United States has been increasing its national debt. The U.S. spends more money than it makes, borrowing larger debts to finance wars, healthcare, education, and other government programs. So over time, excessive debt makes a nation weaker, and that's exactly what's happening to the US dollar. Its value has decreased, and other countries are moving away from using it. China competing with the US. As China's economy grows, it starts to compete with the United States in many ways: trade, technology, and even military power. This competition has led to tension, such as the ongoing trade war and arguments over global technology. So when one power challenges another, it often leads to conflicts that shape the future. Now let's understand 4 key factors in the rise and fall of nations. Number 1, economic growth. Countries that focus on innovation, hard work, and strong infrastructure are able to build powerful economies. Nations that invest in education, healthcare, and technology are usually the ones that rise to power. Number 2, debt and financial management. Debt can be useful for a country in the short term, but too much borrowing leads to trouble. Countries that borrow too much money will eventually face a crisis when their lenders want to be paid back, which means countries having more reliable on debt weakens countries in the long run. Number 3, political stability. Countries that maintain political stability are better equipped to handle challenges. Internal conflicts, corruption, and unstable governments can hurt a nation's ability to grow. Number 4, global influence and military power. Nations that expand their influence beyond their borders through trade, diplomacy, and military power can shape the world in their favor. As a new power rises, it competes with the existing powers in these areas, eventually replacing the old one. The US and China. A modern-day example of power shifts. Dalio's framework is very relevant today, especially in the ongoing rivalry between the United States and China. The US has been the dominant global power since the end of World War II. However, China is now becoming a strong competitor and challenging the US in various ways. China's investments in growth. China has been investing heavily in technology and infrastructure, making it a strong competitor in industries like telecommunications and artificial intelligence. It's building new cities, improving its education system, and developing a strong manufacturing sector. U.S. struggles with debt. The United States, on the other hand, is facing significant challenges related to its national debt. The U.S. spends more than it earns, borrowing large amounts to finance its military, social programs, and more. This debt burden weakens the U.S. dollar and puts the country at risk of financial instability, trade wars, and tensions. Over the past few years, tensions between the U.S. and China have escalated. The U.S. has imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, and China has responded with its own trade restrictions. This competition has led to a trade war, and both nations are trying to defeat each other in the global economy. Learning from the past. Key lessons from Dalio's analysis. Dalio's insights help us understand the factors that contribute to the rise and fall of nations. Here are some important lessons we can learn. First, cycles of rise and fall. No country stays at the top forever. Every nation experiences a cycle of growth, dominance, decline, and replacement. Understanding these cycles helps us predict future changes. Second, the dangers of debt. Too much debt can weaken a nation's financial system. Countries that borrow excessively may face a crisis when they can't pay back what they owe. It's important for countries to be careful with their spending and ensure they have a strong economy. Third, internal stability is key. Nations that maintain political stability can better handle challenges and remain strong. Political conflicts and corruption can slow down a country's growth and lead to its decline. Fourth, preparing for change. The world is always changing, and the balance of power between nations is constantly shifting. By understanding Dalio's principles, individuals and governments can better prepare for the future and make decisions that will help them succeed. Preparing for a changing world order. Dalio's work gives us a blueprint for understanding how global power works and how nations can rise and fall. Whether we are individuals, businesses, or governments, there are important lessons to be learned. Diversify your investments. If you're concerned about the changing global order, diversifying your investments across different countries, industries, and assets can help protect your wealth. Then, focus on innovation. The future belongs to those who innovate and adapt to new technology and changing markets. Nations that invest in education, innovation, and new ideas will be the ones that succeed in the long term. Also, understand the patterns of history. By studying the past and recognizing the patterns of power shifts, we can better prepare for the future. Conclusion: the future of global power. Dalio's analysis of the changing world order gives us valuable insights into how nations rise and fall. The cycle of power has repeated itself throughout history, and it will continue to do so in the future. Whether it's the rise of China or the decline of the US, understanding these patterns can help us navigate the challenges ahead. By applying Dalio's principles to today's world, we can prepare for the future and make smarter decisions about how to respond to the shifting balance of power. Nations rise and fall throughout history, but what's next? Will China replace the US as the next global superpower, or will the US stay on top? Share your thoughts in the comments.